What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Sheehan Show with me, Sean Sheehan, here on Sherdog.com. And today I'm back with my top 5 bets for the week in the world of mixed martial arts. And it's a very interesting week. This week we have the PFL pay-per-view going down over in Saudi Arabia. We have another UFC card from the soulless UFC Apex, which really shone out last week after that octagon card. It really, I don't criticize the Apex too much. I don't really care, to be honest. I'm just there to watch the fights and go home and ring the bell, that type of thing. But God, it really stood out last week, and I think I kind of understood what a lot of people talk about when they say they really don't like the Apex. But anyway, it's probably a discussion for another show on another day. Today we're here to talk about bets, and by God, did we have a great weekend last week. We have 5 more bets for you coming up today, 4 bets and a flyer. But last week's bets hit the proverbial jackpot. Our flyer, as always, look, the flyer almost hit INTR by decision at plus 320. No one, Saldamato had it, but no, the other 2 didn't have it, and I think that was right. But all 4 of our other bets hit, every single one. What a great week. The week before, none of them hit, so God almighty, the highs and the lows, the peaks and the valleys, isn't that it with betting? And that was exactly what we found this week. So we had 2 bets from the aforementioned Octagon card and 2 bets from the UFC. So the ones from the Octagon card that hit were minus 110 for Muhammad Makhachev. Again, I thought that price was a ludicrous price, really, like as someone who's watched a lot of him and his opponent James Sinden over the last while. A lot of respect for James Sinden, but that was a Makhachev fight, no doubt about it. Same would go, I think, for Nafuka. Now that price did move around. I got it at plus 130 if you listened to the show straight away last week, but I believe it was minus money by the time the fight ended up happening, so maybe around minus 110-ish. I can check that out again, but so that bet hit. Then we had Chidi and Jaquani minus 175. Not the best price in the world, but it hit. And then Rodriguez and Moreno go to decision also hit at minus 160. So if you had all 4 of them last week, you weren't doing too bad. So I'm happy with that. And hopefully we can, make some more money this week. Now, I have, this week, I have gone with one bet that is a lot less of a price than I'd usually get. And I'm going to start off with that bet, so we'll talk about it. But I wanted to talk about this fight. And there wasn't a whole lot in terms of the betting odds around it that I was very, very happy with, giving out as my pick. So I'm just going for a straight up pick because, and it's Francis Ngannou versus Hernandez, right? I'll say it straight away. And I'm going for Francis Ngannou. The price, he is at minus 275. As I said, now I would normally never give that price, but we're talking about this fight. We know it's going to be a low price knockout. We know it's going to be low price first round knockout. We know all of that, right? We know all of that. Where do you find value in it? Very, very tough. But I think the value you find in this is maybe throwing, I'm giving it as one of my bets, but maybe throwing that into a parlay and accumulator, maybe throwing it into a double if you fancy someone else. Especially my second bet of the week, I think would make a great double with this. But the reason I give it, and I say this every week, and there's especially my third bet of the week is especially this, but I like to bet and give my betting tips based on price. Even if I'm not betting myself, the ones I'm giving out to you, I like to do it based on price. And this is a very strange price, I think, for Francis Ngannou to only be minus 275 against Hernandez, who is a good fighter. He very much has a chance to win. Does he have a massive chance to win against someone as good as Francis Ngannou? I wouldn't say he's a massive chance. And for him to be only minus 275, I think is a bit of a, is it an error? I don't know if it's an error, but it's way less than I expected. I was expecting Francis to be minus 550, minus 600 type of thing. Like, I'm looking here at a few fights, right? John Jones, Stipe Miocic, right? Would you say Stipe and Hernandez's chances are similar? Maybe you give Hernandez a bit more of a chance, but either way, John Jones minus 700, Stipe Miocic plus 500. It's that sort of line that I thought we might be seeing here, maybe. But anyway, we'll let's talk about the fight. So Minus 275 for a guy like Francis Ngannou, who has obviously been to the very, very top, fought the aforementioned Stipe Miocic, become a UFC champion, and obviously he's been boxing for the last while. Look, I did a full preview on this. It was an extended preview, over 40 minutes of a preview, so I'm not going to bore you with all that again. Please go and watch that. But there are a few things I would say why I can understand this price being less than maybe it should be, right? Or more than maybe it should be in this case. Francis hasn't fought in MMA in, I'll just put it up here, but in a few years. He had the very bad knee injury as well. It's 2022, January 2022. So what are we? We're 2 months away from January 2025. So it's basically 3 years, that give or take a month or two, that Francis has been out of the cage. Obviously concentrating on boxing. How much time did he spend on boxing and all of that? Got heavily knocked out last time out. Obviously very sad. He had obviously a death of one of his kids as well over the last while. Mentally, physically, emotionally, it's such a tough time for Francis Ngannou. And he's going in there against a guy like NFA who hits very, very hard and is a challenge to him. But at the same time, right, we very often, there's a lot of, those things are not intangibles, I would say. Is that the word? Intangibles, intangibles. But at the same time, a lot of people have those sort of things. I always mention it. A lot of people have those sort of things coming into fights, and we don't know. Like, someone's life might be in tatters. Someone's life might be great. Someone might have got knocked out in training. Someone might have been carrying an injury. We often, we don't know. At least, with Francis, we know it. We know there's issues. We know all of what's happened over the last while. But we also know that Francis Ngannou was one of the best heavyweight MMA fighters, we've ever seen. Dangerous and hits hard. And by the time he fought Cyril Gane, his, all-around MMA game was coming together. Okay, that wasn't a different sort of Francis performance where he struggled at times on the feet. But look at his wrestling. Look what he did on the ground. Again, it was another fight that was 50-50-ish. Could have gone either way in the decision. He did win the decision, though. And looked very good. Obviously, the fight before that, he got Stipe Miocic out of there. Looked very good defending against him as well. Hinafe has never shown that amount of ability, right? He did a great job against Denis Goltsov to defend against him for the first round and then knock him out in the second round. He's been in there with some good fighters. Like, he beat Ryan Bader, obviously, very, very quickly. Beat Maurice Keane, Matt Sheffield. And obviously been in there with Fabricio Verdum and Ante Delian and a few more as well. But he's never reached that level yet. Will he reach that level? We will see. We'll find out very quickly on probably very, very quickly on Saturday night. But at the same time, it's hard not to favor Francis Ngannou. It's hard to look at a guy like Hinafe and think, right, there's two ways Francis can win this fight, and can Hinafe stop either of them? I think the first way is to go straight out, go at Hinafe, push him back, and land these big bombs that he did against Rosenstruck and many people. Can Hinafe stop that? I don't think so. The thing Fahea has over most people is he's bigger than them. He's able to use that to, kind of keep people off him. And he's also a better athlete and faster than most people as well. That's not the case for Francis Ngannou in either realm, in any way, shape or form. He's not going to be faster than him. I don't think he'll be able to keep him off him with his height and all of that. So I think he can win it that way. The other way is by taking him down. I talked about the Goltsov fight there. That was an issue for him. Obviously, he got taken down against Goltsov. He's taken down previously. Francis showed that he has takedowns in his arsenal in the Cyril Gane fight. Will he go in there and try to take Hinafe down? Right? If plan A, which I just discussed, doesn't work, I think plan B very much can and will. Now, again, those are the two ways for me that Francis wins the fight. Those are the two ways that Fahea loses the fight. Two questions. Can Francis do either of those things to win the fight? I think yes, he probably can do both of them. Can Fahea stop either of those two things? I would have to say no. I really, like, let's say Francis decides just to wrestle from the very start, or strike from the very start. Can he stop those Fahea? I would be very surprised. Like, with Flier, right? Flier can win this fight offensively. If he gets the first opportunity at offense, absolutely, he can win the fight. And you know what? He probably will win the fight. But I find it very hard to foresee a way that Flier gets the first opportunity at offense. Very, very hard. So that leaves like an almost unwinnable fight for him against someone as talented as Francis. Now, let's say it again. Hasn't fought in MMA in 3 years. Was boxing, heavily knocked out. All of those sort of things. The last time he had a really bad performance and a really bad loss, he, against Stipe Miocic, well, we can couple these together, but the Stipe Miocic loss in 2018, what happened in the next fight? He came out against Derek Lewis and didn't throw a punch. If that happens against Flier, he's in big trouble, because Flier will blow him out of the water. He absolutely will, and he'd blow anyone out of the water because he's that talented. So that's definitely something to look out for. But at the same time, the pick is Francis Ngannou. I think he will, I'd give him a massive chance of winning. I'm very, very strong and believe that Francis Ngannou will win this fight, and we will see the PFL pay-per-view series on Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening. Well, it's probably a Saturday night for me. If you're listening to this in America, it's maybe Saturday afternoon or maybe Saturday morning, whatever it might be. So that is bet number 1. Bet number 2 is the other one I mentioned, the co-main event. Chris Cyborg, lads. Chris Cyborg is the underdog in this fight. And I checked this betting maybe a week ago, right? I'm recording what day am I recording this? I'm recording this, the clock's about to strike 12 here on Wednesday morning. I looked at this Sunday when I was recording the Severe MMA podcast, and this price it's not changed in the last week. She started out as minus 110. Was she the favorite? Hold on, let me check what Pacheco has. It started out even. It started out minus 110. Pacheco has become a big favorite, minus 130. Not a big favorite, but a sizable favorite. Plus 120 for Chris Cyborg. Everywhere I see her, all the betting companies, how many? 6 of them, all have Chris Cyborg as a plus money underdog. Whew, I think that is fanciful at best. And that's, needless to say, that's my bet of the week, number 2, plus 120, Chris Cyborg. Now, let's just, for argument's sake here, and this will take a lot of scrolling from me for a second, I told you maybe we could have added in to make a double here with Chris Cyborg and Francis Ngannou, and let's just check what that price will be. Again, a lot of scrolling here. Hold on, bear with me here a second, guys. So the two of them put together, best price, plus 200 of a parlay. So right, if you don't like that minus 275, you want a bit of a parlay, plus 200 of a parlay for Chris Cyborg and Francis Ngannou. Jeez, that is a great double. That is a fantastic double. Right, let's get to Chris Cyborg. Plus 120. The reason I'm picking her is she's plus 120. Let's be honest. Again, look, we have some of the similar reservations with Francis. We have it with Chris Cyborg. She's 39 years of age. She hasn't fought since October of 2023, a year out, which is not a whole lot. But before that, it was April of 2022. And she did fight a few times in 2021, so she was pretty active there a couple of times in 2020 as well. So, in the last 2 years, basically she's had one fight. For someone at that age, is that a big issue? And only 4 minutes of a fight as well. That'd be an argument. Larissa Pacheco on the other side. Well, Larissa's not, been relatively similar. She had a very busy 2023, obviously, fighting in the PFL season. She fought 4 times. Very busy 2022, fighting 4 times. And look, maybe the bit of rest actually is probably good for her. What is it, 11, 12 months off, just 11, 10, 11 months off. I interviewed her. She said she not a big fan of that. Maybe she'd like to fight quicker after this again, which some people in the PFL season, they want to fight quick and forever again. Some people are like, I never want to do that again. I want to fight twice a year type of thing. But she definitely seems to be one of those people who it just wants to fight and wants to get it going again. So, maybe that'll benefit her, right? But we'll see. How does this fight go? So what kind of fighter is Larissa Pacheco? I know a lot of people have probably tuned in and seen bits and pieces of Larissa Pacheco and seen her maybe fight the Kayla Harrison fights, but what kind of fighter is she? I would describe Larissa Pacheco as, I did a podcast the other day over in the Severe Bay Patreon, my guy Harry Powell, and we talked about MMA archetypes. And there's a few different MMA archetypes, but I would describe her, one of my MMA archetypes was Leon Edwards. And she to me is the Leon Edwards archetype. Now, I might say she's as good as Leon Edwards or anything. No, I'm not saying that, but she is well-rounded, no known weaknesses, good everywhere. Kind of not massively dangerous everywhere, but somewhat dangerous everywhere. Would you be surprised if she submitted someone? No. Would you be surprised if she knocked someone out? No. Would you be surprised if she won a decision against someone? No. Is she going to be technically better than most people? Yes. She's that sort of fighter. She is, years ago, I know I don't know if a lot of people might get this reference necessarily, but when Rory McDonald started fighting MMA after, not after GSP, but as GSP was in his pomp, and he's the next guy coming through with that, the super camp at the time, everyone was talking about this is the next evolution of mixed martial arts. The guy who was training since he was 14 years of age and as he was a kid, and he didn't transition from the NFL or he didn't transition from wrestling. He transitioned from MMA to MMA to MMA to MMA, And what we have today is a ton of those people. And to me, and this is again, maybe a chat for another day, a lot of them are the Larissa Pacheco mold, the Leon Edwards mold. Just good everywhere. Good everywhere. And that's probably why she is this price against Chris Cyborg. The other reason, and the main reason she's this price against Chris Cyborg, is what happened on November 25th, 2022, and that she beat Kayla Harrison. Right. Is that enough for her to be favoured against Chris Cyborg? I don't think so, right? I watched that fight. I obviously covered it here for Sherdog. Today, my 3-year anniversary with Sherdog, so thank you to everyone for tuning in and thank you for all the support. She could have lost that fight, It was a very close fight. Kayla could have won it. But what it was she did in that, she was scrappy. She refused to lose. She kept hanging in there, and she challenged Kayla Harrison. Did I call her Clarissa Shields a minute ago? I think I might have. Anyway, Kayla Harrison, in every aspect of the game, challenged her there. That's exactly what she needs to do against Chris Cyborg. The problem with Chris Cyborg is, the difference, right? So she'd fought Kayla Harrison twice already, and she found ways around Kayla Harrison's judo to slip out, to defend after it, very like Leon Edwards did against Kamaru Usman. And again, found ways around it. Finding ways around judo is a lot simpler than finding a way around getting knocked spark out. Basically, against someone like Chris Cyborg, who has very good defensive wrestling and offensive wrestling if she needs it. Good sprawl and brawl type of fighter, obviously, and will attack you with big power. Massive power. The only one who's ever, not succumbed to that is Amanda Nunes, who obviously is the greatest fighter we've ever seen. And that's, if that's not my favorite MMA fight of all time, it's my favorite women's MMA fight of all time, without a shadow of a doubt, and one of the most entertaining fights of all time. If Larissa Pacheco finds herself in that type of fight against Chris Cyborg, we'll all be cashing our money, because there's no way she gets through that sort of fight with Chris Cyborg. She has to turn it around and make it a dogfight, push her against the cage, pull her down, get on top of her, be very defensive at times when Chris Cyborg is attacking, weather the storm, come on in rounds 3, 4, and 5. That's what she needs to do to win this fight. Okay. That's actually a possibility. The betting line is close. I'm no genius here. I'm not, I'm not saying it, shouldn't be. I don't think it should be like this, but that's how Larissa Pacheco wins the fight against Chris Cyborg. But you look at Chris Cyborg, right, and you see all the people that she has beaten down through the years, and she has beaten people who not only have, let's say, her early knockouts, Ngannou, Sinead Kavanagh, Arlene Blinkow, Yana Santos, Lena Landsberg, Leslie Smith, the list goes on and on and on, right? But the people who went in there against her and attempted to make it maybe a longer fight, or it turned into more of a procession at times, like the Blinko fight, the Leslie Smith fight, obviously, which finished in the 5th round, the Julia Budd fight, which went to the 4th round, Felicia Spencer, obviously, with a decision there as well, Holly Holm, 5 rounds. She beat all of them. She beat all of them too. So you're literally Amanda Nunes, right? So Chris Cyborg is 27-2. Her first loss was in the first fight of her career. Just completely write that off. It's a knee bar in 2005. The only time she's ever lost is a punch in 51 seconds to Amanda Nunes. Are you going to be able to do that to her if you're Larissa Pacheco? I don't think so, right? Very much doubt it. So you're going to have to beat Chris Cyborg in a way she's never been beaten before. Like literally never, even if you count that first fight, never been beaten before. Never even gotten close to being beaten that way, right? How many decisions she got in her career, Chris Cyborg? 5. Won them all. Blinkow, easy. Spencer, easy from what I remember. Holly Holm, pretty easy win. And then we're going back. We're going back then to Elite XE in 2008. So I find it very, very difficult to see Larissa Pacheco being able to put it up to her, to being able to survive, to go to the rounds 3, 4, and 5. And even if she does survive, Chris Cyborg is less likely to take chances now than she was before. Before it was all like, I'm going to go for it. Now she's like, okay, you want to play defensive with me? No problem. I'll jab you. I win that round. I'll jab you, win that round. Suddenly, like, you're waiting for Chris Cyborg to get tired. She's actually not tired. You fought at a really slow pace, and she has plenty of gas left in the tank. So, yeah, no. Chris Cyborg almost certainly is winning this fight. She either wins it early, or I think Pacheco kind of like, I think she just joins her in the procession to 5 rounds. But the early win is probably what I'm picking here for Chris Cyborg. Right, those are the first 2 bets. The third bet might get me in a bit of trouble. But again, I'm picking for price. I'm picking on price, and I have to pick this price. AJ McKee minus 160 against Big News Paul Hughes, who I spoke to a couple of days ago, interviewed on the show. Now, I'm picking this on price because Paul Hughes, I've interviewed Paul Hughes from before he was a pro. I truly believe he's one of the best prospects in the world. I've said it an awful lot over the last couple of years, and what he has done inside the Cage Warriors cage and in the was it PFL or Bellator? It was Bellator, wasn't it? For his professional debut. His PFL/Bellator debut has proven all of those words to be right. The thing is here, he's fighting AJ McKee, and he's been slung straight into it. Please watch the preview I did on this, but I discussed it on that. This is a fight that we do not see in MMA. We sit here, right, and we go, oh, who next for Bo Nickel? Let's have him fight Adesanya, right? Let's have him fight Israel Adesanya. But that doesn't happen. Right, Shemaev is coming through. He's beating everyone. He's destroying him. Let's put him straight in there against, who was it that time? Leon Edwards. Let's put him straight in there against Covington Usman. Didn't happen. All right? Those fights do not happen. They have to win 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 more fights. Bo Nickel talked about it this week. He's won 3 fights already in the UFC. He's planning on winning 3 more and getting there. Paddy Pimblett, I saw talking about it today. He's won, 4 or 5 fights in the UFC. He wants to fight Mike Cano, and then he wants to fight Oliveira, and then he wants to fight for the title, the best in the world. Paul Hughes has had 1 fight, and now he's fighting AJ McKee. There's an argument that AJ McKee is the best lightweight in Bellator/PFL, right? Obviously, Usman and Nurmagomedov had a little bit to say about that, and Patricio and others as well. No doubt about it. There's an argument he's one of the top 3 or 4 or 5, 10 in the world, right? And we're talking here about a guy who's 12-1 in Paul Hughes, who has just made his move from Cage Warriors. Normally this happens, like, let's say best case scenario, what's happened to Ian Gary? How many fights has Ian Gary had in the UFC? Like 8 fights or something like that? And now Ian's like ranked, he went from being ranked number 15 to like number 10 to number 7 or whatever like that. He's made, and now maybe next year he'll be fighting Colby Covington. Like, who's better, Colby Covington or AJ McKee in terms of like pound for pound? I would probably say AJ McKee. All right, so maybe the next fight will be someone the equivalent of AJ McKee. He's had fucking 10 fights in the UFC to get there, or maybe a little bit less. But you get what I mean. Paul Hughes being thrown straight in there. So that is the reason I'm picking AJ McKee. I think AJ McKee is one of the best fighters in the world. I think it's very soon for Paul Hughes. Now, let me say this, and I want to be in the record of saying this. I wouldn't at all be surprised if Paul Hughes won, right? I would not at all be surprised if Paul Hughes won, but I have to pick the price, and I believe that price is very good, right? It's crazy that AJ McKee against someone making his, debut at anywhere near this level. Now, Margaret Charrier, Jordan Vucinic, especially very good fighters and a very good preparation to go to the next level, but they're not at that level. The thing about it is, right? You look at Paul Hughes, right? Let's say Paul Hughes goes on to be the next, Ian Gary, or let's say even more than that, we'll see what Ian becomes. But let's say he goes on to be the next Adesanya, or the next, Makhachev, or the next champion, the next Usman or Magomedov, the next guy, right? All of those guys who I mentioned all had fights to get there, all had a line of people to get through to get there, and Paul just hasn't had that yet. So, it's very difficult to see a path that has never been walked before, or very rarely, never in modern MMA been walked before. And if Paul was to lose this, he wins 1, 2, 3 more, he's right back there, and he's right, it might be the best thing for him. But again, and I'll say this last thing before we move on. If he does win this fight, let's start talking about Paul Hughes as fighter of the year. That's how big this fight is. That's how big of a step up this fight is. And fair play to him for having the balls. And I hope MMA fans out there realize this, and everyone listening to this realizes what Paul Hughes is doing. The vast majority of fighters like him would turn this down. And I've heard many examples of it. I guarantee you the balls on him to take this fight are unbelievable. And for AJ McKee, this is a risky fight too. But what a fight. Cannot wait. But that price and AJ McKee minus 160, it has to be. I would be remiss if I didn't take it. So there you go. Right, those are the 3 bets from the PFL. I look more at the PFL in a second, but the last 2 bets here are going to be from the UFC, the 4th bet and the Flier. So I went anti-cage warriors there. I'm going to go pro cage warriors for the 4th bet. And I'm going to go Jake Hadley at plus 125 in his fight against Brady Highstand. Watched a few of Brady's fights there, obviously while looking up these bets and while studying the cards. And I think Brady is a guy that will suit Jake Hadley's preparation. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean he'll win the fight. That doesn't necessarily mean he'll be able to get through everything that Brady does. But I think it will be good for Jake's preparation. And what I mean by that is he fought Caelan Loughran last time out. And Caelan is, in a different way to Brady, but a very kind of straight-up technical fight type of fighter. It's an odd technical way that Caelan fights. But I think when you go up against someone like Jake Hadley, who's also very technically good, but the issue for Jake is, he's still only 14 fights into his career, and obviously got to the UFC very, very quick and things like that, and, it's been a lot for him. I think the fight IQ part of his game, or not even the fight IQ is the wrong phrase for it, but the experience level to adjust and things like that just haven't met or melded with his ability level. And when he goes in there against a guy like Caelan Loughran, who is even less experienced than him, but is fighting in a technical way like he does, Jake Hadley's really good technique shines out. When I'm watching Brady, again, a guy who has only 11 fights, 10 fights, 8-2, that's also what I see. I see a guy who tries to fight in a technical way, now very differently to the 2 lads aforementioned, but he's obviously a very, very heavy wrestler. Watching his fight against Garrett Armfield, who was calling him? Was it Bisping calling it? Just kept saying, like, he's just wrestling and wrestling. Will not stop from the very, very, very start. And he will take Jake Hadley down. If there was a bet on over under the amount of takedowns in this fight, and it was like 5, I would probably bet the over for Brady Hansett in this, but I think that might be a benefit to Jake Hadley. He's a very good guillotine, very good submissions, and again, he'll be able to see that come and know it and prepare for it. I heard Alistair Overeem talking about it. I watched all the interview, talking about the Brock Lesnar fight. He's like, well, how's Brock going to surprise me? I know he's going to go out and go across the cage and try to wrestle me. So there's a bit of an advantage to that, knowing it. Now, to be able to stop it, and to be able to get through it, and be able to beat someone because of that, easier said than done, obviously. But in this case, I think it's helpful for Jake Hadley. I also think Jake is the type of guy, I'm watching some of his fights, even a couple of fights he lost. It was the Durden fight where it was more wrestle heavy, and he kind of got split as well in that fight and stuff. But he went for guillotines, he went for a lot of submissions, and he almost caught a couple in that fight. He has a submission win in the UFC already, won by submission in the Contender Series as well. Submitted Blaine O'Driscoll, former Irish MMA Fighter of the Year in Bellator as well. And he's well able to fight, well able to submit guys, very, very good on the ground. And if Brady takes him down, I think Hadley will be looking for that guillotine. He will have him well set up, and especially if you're taking Jake Hadley down early while he's dry and not tired, and he's as strong as an ox, I could very, very well see like a first minute guillotine submission win for Jake Hadley here. I also think if this fight's on the feet, if he stops the takedown, if that's his game plan, I think Jake hits really hard, way harder than Brady, and I think he's way better on the feet than Brady, and I think he'll beat him there if it goes there. So yeah, look, the other option is Brady takes him down and takes him down and takes him down as I choked it here, and wins the decision. And look, is that the most likely outcome? Probably while he's the favourite, let's be honest here. But I actually don't think it's the most likely outcome. I probably think it's the second most likely outcome. I actually do think the most likely outcome is Jake Hadley catches him and wins by submission. So there you go. Bet number 4 of the week. Jake, I'm not picking him to win by submission, although that isn't actually out yet, the price as I'm recording here, but Jake Hadley plus 125 straight up. Right, the flyer, bet number 5 of the week. I'm going for the UFC main event, and I'm going for Fluffy Hernandez to win by TKO KO at plus 525. Now, this is one of those picks where I'm not picking Fluffy Hernandez to go out and outbox Michel Pereira and knock him out in a round, or 2 rounds, or 3 rounds. I'm picking Fluffy Hernandez to wrestle him and punch him and jiu-jitsu him and Muay Thai him and clinch him and wear him out and get a finish in the 4th, 5th round type of thing. That's my pick for Fluffy Hernandez. That's how I think he wins this one. Now, a lot of his fights obviously in by submission, and he's a really good submission artist and everything like that. And this one very, very much could do. But I was looking for a flyer, and I liked this one. Pereira as well, he's only been submitted once. Now, he's only been knocked out once as well, but in a 5-round fight, I think there's a higher chance of that happening. Like, this fight to me is a very interesting fight. I think there's 2 ways it can go, really, to be honest. I think either Pereira will look amazing early. Well, there's 3 ways it can go. I think he'll either look amazing early, take Fluffy apart and finish him, knock him out in the first 15 minutes. I think Fluffy could get his wrestling going early, could wear him out pretty quick and finish him pretty quickly, or a combination of both. So Pereira winning, bloodied up. Hernandez, he struggles on. Maybe it's almost about to be finished. He gets to the end of the round, he struggles, and Pereira gets really tired in the maybe the 3rd round. Fluffy wins the 3rd, wins the 4th, wins the 5th, wins the decision, or wins the 3rd, finishes him in the 4th, or wins the 3rd and 4th, finishes him in the 5th, type of thing. I can see that happening as well. And honestly, I'm not massively sure on which of those I would go for. The straight up, let me just pull it up here. The straight up price in this, if I can find it, is the favorite is Fluffy to win, minus 130 best price, plus 114 for Pereira. I don't know. I actually don't know which way I'd lean, to be honest. I'm a big fan of Michel Pereira, so the heart might be overtaking the head there a little bit if I go out for Pereira, but I think I'm giving you the bet of Fluffy Hernandez to win by finish here, But if I were to give a straight up pick, I don't know. I'm very torn on it. But I do like that price, to be honest. The way Pereira fights, the way it can very quickly go downhill for him. I think 5 rounds definitely benefits Fluffy. And, you know, if he turns up his back, you know, I could very well see this, right? 4th, 5th round. Pereira's blowing his load, throwing everything. Fluffy either knocks him down or takes him down, gets into the mount, throws a load of punches. He turns over, goes for the rear naked choke, defends it, postures up, you know, does slapping, belting blows as he's flattened out to the back of the ears, to the side of the ears, and Fluffy Hernandez gets the TKO finish in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round of the fight. That's just for prosperity. Now, if that happens, I'm definitely going to clip that and put it up. But yeah, that's the way I think this fight could go. And plus 525, I think that's a pretty good price. I think that's pretty good. Right, let's run through some of the other prices in that fight on that card. Honestly, not a whole lot stood out to me. Kyler Phillips, massive, minus 400, plus 300 for Font. You know, I was thinking about Font as a flyer, but I do fancy Phillips in that. Charles Johnson against Suma Najari. Watching a bit of Johnson, obviously, in one of the previous fights. I do like him in that as well. Pineda Elkins was the one who kind of a 50-50. You never know. You never know with Elkins. Pineda, not the best fighter in the world, but you know, is Elkins what he used to be? Not too sure. I'm a big Darren Elkins guy as well. I lean Darren Elkins there. Brad Catona's a pretty good price, plus 220. You know, he's a guy who wins fights, wins decisions. Doesn't look, you know, always like he's you know, destroying people or clearly beating people, but he does have a knack of winning fights. So, you know, he's fighting Jean Matsumoto. I watched a bit of him. He's a pretty good fighter, and, you know, he's a big favorite there. So that's an interesting one to keep an eye on. Justin Edwards, I wouldn't bet her in a million years at that price. She's upwards at minus 295 in some place. Like Edwards, again, she's one of these fighters that blows hot and cold. Really is, son. I would avoid that one. I do like Elise Reed over Jessica Penne. I don't think she is what she used to be. Elise Ardelaine, she's fighting Melissa Martinez. I like Melissa Martinez at minus 130 there. It's a good price. And then Austin and Roman Despain. The first round knockout price isn't up there yet, but I do like Despain in that one. There's a KSW card this weekend as well. Not a whole lot on that. Matej Val versus Tobias Lee. About even on that, minus 125 for Val Lee. Minus 105. Probably lean Lee on that one. The other one I like is Gino Vancinas. He had a bad loss recently, if I'm not mistaken, and we kind of looked at him as one of the bets. You know, maybe he'll come back in that one, the minus 220. And Magic Rosansky is also on this as well. He's minus 300, and I think he'll probably end up winning that. So PFL then. We obviously talked about Francis, we talked about Chris Cyborg and Paul Hughes against AJ McKee. The other big fight on that card is obviously Fabian Edwards against Johnny Eblin. Massive differential there. Minus 395 for Eblin as a favourite, upwards of minus 500 in some places, plus 340 for Edwards. Again, you know, speaking to Fabian, he makes some good points about the quick rematch and him doing well in the first fight, and he did. He definitely was at that fight live. He definitely did well. I think this price is a little bit too much. I probably would have had Eblin maybe minus 300 rather than minus 400. So maybe there's a little bit of value, but, you know, I do think Eblin will probably end up winning that one. Stotts and Brino. Stotts is massive for anywhere from minus 800 to minus 550, plus 500 for Brino there as well. So yeah, Ibrahimov again minus 1,000. A lot of big favorites in this. So there you have it. Those are the bets for the week, and I'm really looking forward to this weekend. Some very, very good stuff coming up. And yes, let's recap the bets before we go. Francis Ngannou started off minus 275, plus 120 for Chris Cyborg Justino, minus 160 for AJ McKee. I'll be ran out of Ireland for that one. Jake Hadley plus 125, and then the flyer of the week. Don't bet it because it'll definitely lose. Hernandez wins by TKO KO at plus 525. That is it from me, folks. Please bet responsibly. Let me know your PFL pay-per-view bet of the week. Let me know that in the comment section below, and I'll leave it there. Thank you very much for tuning in. My name is Sheehan for Sherdog.com, and I'll see you all next time.